Hi, I'm Jenny Robertson, founder of the On Purpose Woman Global Community and founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine. I'm excited to share with you the speaker portion of our Connections Over Coffee gathering of the On Purpose Woman Global Community. Laurie Morin is speaking on Connect with Your Ideal Clients, Write Your Business Origin Story. Laurie is a best-selling author and story doula, helping people birth their life stories into being. Have you always wanted to write a book and have 1,000 ideas but don't know where to start? Laurie's gift is helping you parse through the tapestry of your life to identify the story calling you to be told right now. She's working on her second book, Chasing the 70s, a dual timeline fictionalized memoir. You can find out more about Laurie at lauriemorin.com, and that link is also in the text of this video. Thank you for being with us, Laurie. You are on.
Thank you so much, Ginny. I'm very happy to be here. Um, so I hate marketing, but the best marketing advice I ever got was from a coach, Suzanne Evans, who I imagine some of you have run into in your professional lives. I was in a program with her. It was my first ever business coaching program. And one of the things that she made us do is walk up to the stage, not the stage, but in front of the stage where she had a microphone stand and introduce ourselves. So I walked up and I said, oh, I'm Laurie Morin. I'm a lawyer. I'm training to be a life coach. And that was about it. In her own indomitable way, if you know Suzanne, she just looked at me and said, nobody cares about your credentials. Tell us what you can do for us. I was humiliated and went back to my seat and tried not to burst into tears, but I've never forgotten that lesson. Where I came from as a lawyer and a law professor, I was used to relying on my credentials. If I walked into a room and I said to somebody, I'm a lawyer, I teach law, I teach students how to practice law in a clinic, I felt like I had instant credibility. And now I was transitioning into being an entrepreneur. And I was getting a lot of certifications because that's the way that I learn how to do things is I take a lot of classes and study with a lot of people and then put it all together. But they didn't really mean anything to the people I was meeting. Everybody had certifications. Everybody had courses, coaches. What people wanted to know is, how can you help me? And why should I trust you to help me? And that's where the idea of telling your business origin story comes in. So, what the heck is a business origin story? And why would I want one anyway? It's pretty simple. A business origin story is the story of how you got from where you were in your life to what you're doing now as an entrepreneur. For many of us, we started in the corporate world, or we started in academia, or we started doing something very different from what we're doing now. So the story of how we got there is not a story of perfection. It's not a story of, I'm the expert and I'm going to tell you how you can do things in your business. It's the story of, I had this dream. I had this vision of helping people by doing this. And I had a journey to get there. It wasn't a smooth path. I had to make a lot of mistakes. I had a lot of challenges. There were times when I wondered, should I ever have quit corporate or academia? Am I ever going to be able to make it in this world? But I persevered and I made it through that. And now I can help you because I'm only one or two steps ahead of you. I know what you're going through, and I know what it takes to get where you want to go. That's the kind of story that I'm talking about when I say your business origin story. So I think Suzanne Evans is a brilliant strategist. Um, Her advice, people don't want to know your credentials. They want to know how you can help them, is very true. But I would also modify that advice a little bit. I would say people don't care about your credentials, although they do want to know that you're qualified to do the job. Um, and you can establish that not by saying I have this, that, and other certification, but by using testimonials. But they also don't want you to be perfect. It's intimidating to talk to somebody who acts like they have all the answers. They've always had the answers. And, you feel kind of crazy if you don't already have the answers too. People don't want you to be perfect. They want you to be human. They want to know that you face challenges. They want to know that you figured things out. You got help when you needed help. They want you to show them how you did that so that they can believe in themselves, so that they can believe that they can do it too. So what you're really marketing, I think, is not the end result, but the transformation, the process that you can deliver to help people go from where they are to where they want to go in their business. So there's a marketing guru, I'm sure you've all heard of Seth Godin. People do not buy goods and services. They buy relations, stories, and magic. When you meet somebody in business, how do you relate the story of how you got to where you are in your business? Sometimes you only have 30 seconds or a minute to talk about what you do. And I have to admit that's a little challenging, but it is possible. But a lot of times, especially if you think about your website, your About You page, I don't know how many About Me pages I've read that talk only about the person's modality, what they do, what the program's going to look like, what the step by step is. And they don't tell me really anything about themselves. We were just having a discussion earlier, and one of the common themes that comes up when people are looking for somebody to help them is they want to feel connected. They want to feel like they know the person. A lot of us choose a coach from our guts, not from our heads. We go through this whole linear process in our heads, but then the bottom line is I'm choosing you because I feel connected to you. I just have a feeling that you're the right person to help me with this problem. So, what I want to give you today is a kind of 5-step process that will help you to tell the story of how and why you became an entrepreneur. And this is what I'm calling your business origin story. Um, Unless you're very different from most women I know, the path to entrepreneurship wasn't smooth. It wasn't always a straight line. Maybe you zigged and zagged. I started out wanting to be a life coach, and now I'm a writing coach. And now I tell the story of how I made that transition. Um, so, how do you share all that? How do you share the fact that maybe you started out thinking one thing, but your priorities shifted? Maybe you ended up with a different business model from what you envisioned. And I think the easiest way to do it is by following this framework that we've all heard of it's usually called the hero's journey framework. I call it the hero's journey framework. It's the same storytelling framework that they used in Harry Potter, in Star Wars, even in The Wizard of Oz. And there are clear steps to it, but the reason that authors and movie directors and producers use it over and over again is because it's very powerful. It's a powerful way of making connections with people. And to me, that's all business is. It's making connections between what you have to offer and exactly the right person who needs that. And I want to say that that applies to writers too. So now that I'm a writer, I use this very same thing to attract the right readers who will resonate with what I'm writing. is we all want to put words on paper that are going to be read by somebody. But there's a lot of competition on Amazon. There's literally millions of stories. So how do you reach that right person, the one who needs what you have to give? So here are the 5 steps. I am going to cut and paste them into the chat, and I can also cut and paste them into the Facebook group so that you don't have to write it all down. But it all starts with a call to adventure. If you think about movies, um, Harry Potter is called to the wizardry world. Dorothy finds herself after a tornado in a foreign land with a yellow brick road. There's a call to adventure. It may come from inside, it may be an internal call. Like, I'm not happy with what I'm doing right now. I need to find something better for myself. Whatever that call is, you want to share it with the people who are learning about you. Where were you in your life when you started this whole journey? Maybe you were in corporate, maybe you were in academia, maybe you had not worked for many years because you took some time off from working to have children. What was going on in your life? Were you unhappy? Were you dissatisfied? Did you just have a dream? Maybe something that you had always wanted to do and now is your time. That's your call to adventure. And it usually involves some kind of dilemma. Like in corporate, I'm making a lot of money, but I really don't like what I'm going to work and doing every day. So, what was your dilemma that you were trying to solve when you said, hey, I'm going to ditch this and I'm going to go start a business? And the second step is talking about your challenges and obstacles. We all have them. When you start out as a solo entrepreneur, there are so many things to learn. You have to learn the technology, you have to learn CRM, you have to learn how to use Zoom, not to mention learning the skills of whatever it is that you want to offer. Sometimes those challenges can be daunting. How many of us have bought programs, taken courses, bought fancy software that we don't know how to use, and it doesn't help us in our business at all? And we've wasted thousands of dollars. Well, I think that's a part of your business origin story because when you tell that part of your story, you're saving somebody else from making those same mistakes. The third step is talking about something that we don't usually like to share because it's really vulnerable. It is talking about your moment of doubt. When was the time when you felt bottomed out? You wondered, you were in despair, you wondered, am I ever really going to be able to do this? I'll tell you, it's really hard to share those moments, but when you do, people are going to resonate with you because we've all been there. We've all had those moments. I don't think people want to hear that you decided to start a business and it was a happy, clear path and you made it all the way through and look at me, now I know everything. I don't think that's how we get connected with people. So sharing those vulnerable moments and not only what the moment was, but what resources did you find to help you get through that? Did you find a mentor? Did you ask for help? If you didn't ask for help, do you wish you had asked for help? Because that's something we as women are not usually very good at doing. So then you finally get to the point where you come out the other side. You emerge in an adventure story, you emerge with a reward, a trophy, or whatever it is. But in business, you emerge with lessons that you've learned, but also with something that's better in your life. It's either financial success, it's feeling more fulfilled, it's having a sense of satisfaction that you now know how to help people. There was a reward at the end of that struggle that you went through that you want to share with people. And once you've done all that, by the time you've told people this whole story, they are going to know a lot about who you are. They are going to know if they feel in their guts like you're the right person to help them, because your story resonated with them, because they feel a connection with you. They believe they can trust you because you didn't just pretend that you knew everything or were perfect. You shared with them the journey that you went through. And that is when you offer your program or your services, or you ask somebody how you can help them. That's really, a lot of us start with that at the beginning of our elevator pitch or our website page or whatever it is. That's really the last thing that you should do. You have to establish the connections first. So once you write all this, and I recommend writing the whole long thing, like the whole long version of the movie. Um, but then how do you use it in your business? Well, I already mentioned one place, putting it on your about page on your website. But you can also take little snippets of your story to write blog posts, to write Facebook posts, each with a very short message. Maybe today's message is about one lesson I learned. Maybe tomorrow's message is about how I found hope in the midst of despair. But they all come from that story, and they all tie back to who I am and how I can help you. So what I do now in my new business is I share the struggle I went through when I decided I wanted to be a writer. And I had been to a writing retreat, 3-day writing retreat. I had about 30,000 words written, total stream of consciousness all over the place. And I went home and I had no idea what to do with all those words. So I hid them behind my desk and I didn't pull them out again until the pandemic. And I decided I had to find a framework. I had to find some way to structure all these thoughts. I got out a poster board, I got out a bunch of post-it notes, and I stuck them all over the place. And I finally came up with a pattern. And that is when I learned about the hero's journey framework. And I said, oh, I see how all these things I wrote actually can be fit into that framework to make a book that makes sense. And that's what I want to help you do too, because I can shortcut that process for you. I've figured out how to do it. So that's the way that I use an origin story now. And I can do it in a 30-second umbrella pitch if I have to. I don't like to, but I can. So I just want to end by saying, I've met some remarkable women here in On Purpose Woman, and I would like to work with each and every one of you, but I also would love to know more about your stories. I would love to know how you got to be who you are in the world today and how you got to share your gifts. So I hope that you'll write your business origin story and post it somewhere so that we can all see it and form even deeper connections than we already have here in On Purpose Woman. Thank you.
Wow, Laurie. Let me find myself back over here. That was so good. Thank you.
Thank
And I'm
you.
asking all the women who are here with us on Zoom to please unmute yourselves and let's give it up. Let's give some applause and some yays and so forth for our speaker today.
Woo! Really good.
Great job. Great job.
I love it. I love it. And I want to thank anyone who's watching this live or watching the replay on our YouTube channel. Please check out all the other women on our channel who share their gifts, their wisdom, and their expertise to inspire you to move forward, whether it's about your business or other pieces of your life. If you want to join us for one of our Zoom gatherings, or you can go to my website, opwgc.com, where you can find out all about our community and the magazine. And just also know that we do meet in person in Columbia, Maryland and Tallahassee, Florida. Thanks for watching.